All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, from wherever you're calling in. Hello, and welcome to today's Global Space Innovation Project Public Engagement event. My name is Chris Tote, and I'm from the Space Systems Command International Affairs Office. And we're excited to see you all here today. I want to thank you for taking your time out of today's event, today to attend. For everyone's awareness, we are recording this event, and it will be posted with the release for future reference. Just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. So throughout today's event, we'll have a couple polls for everyone. If you scan the QR code on screen or go to the link that I'm about to post in the chat, you'll be able to respond to these questions, ask for it, and we'll also use the same platform for the Q&A portion of this event. So the first question is just what country are you calling in from today? Feel free to answer as we go through the next few slides. We just love to figure out who's all here. So you've probably seen it on LinkedIn, posts around a little bit, and you might be asking, what is the Global Space Innovation Project, or GSIP? The United States Space Force Space Systems Command International Affairs Office and Space Rapid Capabilities Office are looking to engage the global market by releasing an open solicitation on space data visualization. So GSIP is a new solicitation based upon the successes of the 2020 International Space Pitch Day and may grant multiple awards larger than those from ISPD 2020. This new solicitation is focused on the scope of those challenge areas to further mature and develop concepts for the next phase of technology transition and working with transition partners that we'll talk about later. SSCIA and Space RCO are working with the Defense Innovation Unit, or DIU, to lead the contract actions and customer engagements using the commercial solutions opening, which releases to the public tomorrow on 4 November. And now I'll hand it over to Matt to kind of talk about why are we doing this.
Right, great question. Thanks, Chris, I really appreciate it. I hope everybody's filling out the poll, and just looking at it, looks like we've got most of the people from US, and we're gonna be talking about that on the next slide. So first of all, why do this? We already have data visualization already. Why is the government sending out something new? In fact, we have dozens of tools. Some of the tools have been around for decades. Some of them have just been around for a couple months. So could it be better? Yeah, sure. But how could it be better? So I really want to talk about user experience from a space operator perspective. Just remember that our space operators in US Space Command interact with a computer and they interact with a phone. So a lot of times we'll reach out to these operators, we call them deltas. I'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. We'll reach out to the deltas and say, tell us what you need. So just remember that they're going to give us those kind of inputs from their perspective and their biases and what their day-to-day look like. So they're going to be big on user experience. So when we first did International Space Pitch Day last year, we did just that. And we talked to these folks directly and said, well, tell us what you're looking for and why. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be bespoke systems that we make, and therefore there's going to be bespoke user experiences that come along with that system. Well, we know that third-party application developers are here to stay. It's a concept that we kind of understand and want to be able to onboard those third-party applications quickly, easily, and in a way that the operators can really put everything together in what we call a common operating picture. So I'm going to go to the slides a little bit more here and say, yes, there are key events and relative information in the space domain, including the space environment and space system awareness. You'll notice I did not say space situational awareness, predictive analysis, and system status of health monitoring. We want to know what's going on out there because we're not out there. We rely solely on information, data, and metadata about all these systems to be able to provide a picture to the leadership about literally what is going on. That's space domain awareness akin to the battle space of space. So we need to understand what's going on. So those visualization tools support those commanders, right, in space operations, in that battlefield environment. And really we need to, you can see we've used some keywords here, synthesize, verify, compare, and combine relevant space domain awareness data from a variety of sources. So what we mean by variety of sources, we've got ground-based sensors, we've got space-based sensors, we've got sensors that just tell us about the actual spacecraft itself, and then we've got sensors that tell us about the environment that it's in, like the space environment, or what's coming up next to us, or what's coming in the future. All of this needs to be taken in a way that people can consume. And people want to consume stuff that is easy, is quick, and looks nice, right? The dad joke I'm struggling here for is we're not just a pretty space. So I want to go back to the reducing risk. So we've got really good procedures for bringing in new tools, right? And the only issue with that is, let's say you're an operator and I tell you that there are 20 or even 30 tools at your disposal. How many of those are you actually going to use? 2, 3? Well, depends on the event, depends on what's going on, depends on what system you're trained on or what your personal biases are. So what we want to understand, and we want industry to understand, is that we get that. There are a variety of all kinds of tools, and throwing yet another tool at the problem is not what we're trying to do. We're trying to get solutions that really kind of expand and, dare I say, innovate on what that user experience is and how we can help them get a better understanding of that space domain awareness and the space system awareness. Okay, so we're going to have a Q&A session after this where we can go through all of this and try to answer your questions. We also have an FAQ that we'll be putting out about the solicitation. So we are here to help and answer that. But I think we want to hear your questions. We want to hear, you know, we're discussing things like, how many tools do you need? How many people are using them? Are people using them, or are we, you know, using AI, and to what extent is machine learning and people on the loop, in the loop, et cetera? So go to your next slide, please. Thank you, Chris. In addition to this being a truly global solicitation, and we do expect vendors from non-US countries to provide, that is absolutely what we are aiming to do here, is to involve the global market and really come up with the best of breed of technologies. We wanted to show you that we are also being inclusive on our end, and we didn't want to do this just in a vacuum. So the two people putting up money for this are Space Systems Command, you can see on the right, the execution, Space Rapid Capabilities Office, and of course, the Defense Innovation Unit will be doing the contracting and the engagement. So from a space innovation community, as far as R&D goes, we're involving those three people. Then who's providing input? Who's telling us what we should consider, what we shouldn't consider? So we went direct to Space Force headquarters. So you can see, I also kind of wanted to say a little bit of who's who in this. Just so you know, all the organizational changes, it confuses us as well. we do not, at our level, make all these changes. So we also wanted to say, we're sorry about all the acronym soup. It is difficult on our end as well. So I wanted to kind of stretch out just a little bit. We've got plenty of time today and really tell you how did we come about this. So we went to Space Force headquarters, the strategic plans, programs, requirements, and analysis. So you can see it's S589. And those kind of terms, that's what we use in Air Force and Space Force, and really in Joint World. The 589 crowd are the people that are going to be doing future requirements. What are the requirements going to be, you know, the capability needs, the gaps, all the technical needs, they're the ones that have been coming up. So we reached out to them, said, hey, what do you think? We're thinking of doing this. Can you please give us input? We reached out to another group called the Space Warfighting Analysis Center, or SWAC. There's some great information out there on SWAC. They're the ones that are going to be looking at that 2B architecture. What does our overall architecture look like in the future? And you know, how can I contribute by the various space missions? So we asked them. We also reached out, of course, to our Space Force deltas. So specifically within US Space Command and space operations, there's a group that works innovation. It's a fantastic group. We meet every other week, and all the operators tell us what they like, what they don't like, what they're thinking of from an acquisition perspective. It's a really great way to do internal comms. So we reached out to the deltas as well. And then lastly, in going through this, the National Guard contacted us. National Guard does space operations. If you didn't know, they're on the line right now. And the National Guard is really interested in being a transition partner, and we are going to involve them every step of the way. So we have really kind of a broad canvas here. So now let's talk about our transition partner. Let's say you come up for GSIP with a great idea, we put you on contract, then what happens? This is the most important question. So the Space RCO, since they are invested and an investor in this, are going to be looking to transition something for a future system. And we've got Severin Blankish on the line, and we talked about that during the Q&A. SSC, or Space Systems Command, is broken up into different cores. We have development core, we have production core, we have enterprise core, Atlas core, et cetera. You can look all that up online. But the development core is typically where the innovation and prototyping goes. So whatever event here, we're going to be looking to them for input on what sort of steps can we take, where can this go, and they're going to be a stakeholder and a partner with us there. We've also reached out to the Enterprise Core Cross Mission Ground. Those are the groups that run Kobayashi Maru in Section 31. If you haven't been able to follow them on LinkedIn, I highly suggest you do. And then lastly is the SSC Enterprise Core Special Projects Ground. These are the people that are going to be doing a lot of the space domain awareness acquisition. These are the acquisition offices that are going to be coming up with major programs of record. We want to find a way to find data visualization to be able to input into some of these programs. All right, next up is the additional proposal evaluators. So we've got some evaluators from the SSC Portfolio Architect, the Capabilities group, the SSC Development Core, of course, I mentioned, and Production Core as well. And then lastly, we have some key people from AFRL Space Vehicles Directorate. I can see there's already a question in the chat about AFWorks and SpaceWorks. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm one of the co-founders of SpaceWorks, as is, I would consider Severin Blankish as well. And we're working through all that as SpaceWorks kind of grows and comes in, but this is absolutely a space innovation network that is run by Space Systems Command, Space RCO, and DIU with full support. All right, so that's everybody in the who's who. I'm gonna kick it over the line to the next slide, but thank you, look forward to your questions. Keep them coming in the chat, please.
Morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Nate Gapp from Defense Innovation Unit. So I'm just going to talk about the scope of this project a little bit. As was mentioned earlier, Defense Innovation Unit, or DIU, will be doing the contract execution for this project. We are partners with Space RCO and SSC. There are no prerequisites to apply. This isn't a consortium or anything. You don't have to be part of that. It's open to any and all folks, including US and non-US developers. And then when it comes to non-US company participation, the US government does its due diligence of financial and security evaluations, and we have precedence in working with companies outside the US. So this isn't new ground that we're treading. And then just to let you all know, the scope of this contract is consistent with US code title listed there under prototyping authorities, because the effort, what we're looking for here is a prototyping effort. Next slide. So here in a nutshell is the CSO process, Commercial Solutions Opening. That's what DIU uses as our solicitation process. We will be entering the phase 0 solicitation phase once the area of interest, or AOI, goes out. Again, that's tomorrow on the 4th of November. That will be open for 10 business days or 14 calendar days, closing at 23:59 on the 18th of November, which is a Thursday, I believe. So, and that's Pacific time, just keep that in mind. All this information, of course, will be available on the DIU's website. So if you forget here, don't worry, you can see it when you go to the website. Following that, we'll move into phase 1, solution briefs evaluation. So the proposals you send us, we will evaluate, and we work to get you answer responses, whether or not you're moving on to phase 2 as quick as possible, because we know that your time is valuable and we appreciate your time and effort, and we don't want to keep you on the hook for too long. So DIU strives to respond as quickly as possible through our evaluation process. You're successful in phase 1, you're invited to do a company pitch where we ask you some more involved questions and try to get a better understanding of your solution and your company as a whole. And then if moving on from there, we go to a phase 3, and that's a request for pilot proposals. Chris is going to play a video that will better explain the process. So Chris, over to you.
The United States government is the world's largest customer, providing reliable revenue for companies. In the past, barriers have made it difficult for commercial technology companies to work with the government, such as complex bureaucracy, opaque processes, and slow progress. But today, that experience is different. The Defense Innovation Unit is the only Department of Defense organization focused on fielding and scaling commercial technology within the U.S. military across sectors. DIU helps minimize upfront costs, as well as reduce the time to award and ultimately facilitate full-scale production. We do this through streamlined and transparent processes, rapid decision-making, and scaling successful prototypes. Our process starts by soliciting commercial solutions on our website that address the current needs of our DoD partners. If you want to work with DIU, you must respond to an active solicitation on the website in which we seek a particular product or technology. If your technology is relevant to a specific solicitation, you'll simply send us a short brief in response. This brief should demonstrate the current capabilities of your company and how those could apply to the specified problem statement. We will reach out to you within 30 days to schedule a pitch if your technology is suitable. Your pitch should demonstrate your proposed solution and include an estimated cost. Companies with the best potential solutions to our DoD partners' needs are invited to negotiate a full proposal. Finalists are awarded a prototype contract within 60 to 90 days from start of process. The Defense Innovation Unit minimizes the time it takes from problem identification to prototyping a commercial solution and implementing it in the field. By connecting your company to this powerful DoD network, DIU's agile processes, contract authorities, and diverse team of experts can accelerate a path to revenue for your company. Learn more at diu.mil.
Thanks, Chris. Just a reminder, double check that you're on mute. I think we got a hot mic somewhere. Appreciate it. Go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right, so the area of interest, again, that will be posting tomorrow and closing out at 23:59, 18 November, US Pacific time. This slide kind of gives you a rundown, synopsis of how the proposals will be written and evaluated, or accepted and evaluated. These instructions are also on DIU's website, and these slides will be made available as part of the AOI solicitation. So don't feel that you need to copy down everything here. This is just kind of a reference slide for you to use in the future. But big takeaways from it are, we strongly suggest no more than a 5 written page paper or a 15 slide briefing. We do our due diligence to evaluate every briefing that comes through. So try to be concise and to the point, but thorough. All right, next slide. All right, this will be a kind of we'll talk, everyone will talk about this slide a little bit, but I'll introduce it. At a high level view, our focus areas, our goals of objectives are that we're going to, as mentioned, onboard existing commercial data visualization tools to create a common operating picture. We're looking for dual use technology, higher technology readiness level that's already in development. So we're not looking for brand new concepts. And we're looking to leverage open source data formats. And of course, as Matt mentioned earlier, we want something that's easy, it's customizable, and the ability to add future tools going forward. This is, again, just a high level. The area of interest that will come out tomorrow will have much more detailed description of what we're looking for. So just be aware that this is just kind of to whet your appetite. Anyone else wants to jump in on this slide, please do.
Yeah, sure. This is just more acronym fun that we get to have. So we wanted to let you know about what are the terms that we use. So when we say common operating picture, what does that mean, right? Sure, you're probably thinking about the spinning globe and we've got little satellites zooming around. Well, that's part of it, sure. But it's something that, how do we take in all this information? I assure you, it's a lot, and we're only human, and we can only do so much with that information. Single satellites, constellations that are doing ISR right now are downloading petabytes of information. So how we interpret that and take action upon it is based on what we are presented visually a lot of times. So we need to kind of understand, and we will be using that term, that COP term. What do we mean by dual use? Dual use means both, not either or. Dual use means that there is a commercial application, a civil space application, or a defense application, meaning that, we can use this for defense, but you can also use it for dual purpose commercial. Now, why are we saying that? Folks that have been on a lot of space innovation calls lately have been seeing the Defense Department using that term over and over and over again. And it's because we want healthier companies, right? If we're going to invest and actually, sorry, not invest, but if we are going to actually procure something from a vendor, we want to know what your customers are. If 99 to 100% are defense customers, we're your only customer, right? Then we just kind of want to know that. We want to know and work with you and say, okay, because if for whatever reason that defense business goes away, then we're not being very kind to from an economic perspective for those companies. All right, higher TRL. Well, so if you've done the math, we're going to release something at the end of this week, and it's only going to be on the street for a couple of weeks. That means that we are not interested or looking for a true new concept development thing. We're looking for things that are already somewhat developed that we can take that next mile and really customize to our needs, okay? So higher TRL means that from International Space Pitch Day, we took a look at a lot of the concepts out there, right? And we want to kind of take the next steps from that. Already in development is a key word that can mean a lot of things. So let's have a conversation about that. Oh, sorry, Sharon, did you? We'll wait for questions here at the end. Easy integration, user customization. We're trying not to make too many buzzwords there, but we do want to tell you where our head's at, right? We don't expect a whole lot of integration. People that grew up 20, 30 years ago, well, I remember reading a README file. Nobody reads README files anymore. You download a new app, you play around, you're good to go, okay? So that's what I mean by easy integration. And then user customization is we understand that these space operators have a lot of input to provide. So let's use them. How are you using this tool? How often? What times of days? Let's get some input and allow them to help customize those tools for their needs. And of course, the ability to add future tools. We know more tools are coming. We know that it's just going to be a constant revolving door, and we need to be ready for that. We need to make it easy for that. Leveraging open framework architectures is we're not looking for, highly specified interconnection documents or interoperability documents. We need to have these things be plug and play with open framework and really just making sure that it's easy to onboard third-party applications. Sorry about that. All right, that's it for me. Nate, thank you for giving me that time.
Thanks. Yeah, if anyone, Sev or Chris, do you guys have anything to add to this slide? Or if not, we'll move on. Thanks.
So what we'll do now, we'll take a 5-minute break, refill your coffee, use the restroom if you need to do it. But we do have another question that we put up on the poll. And then if you also look on that same tab, you'll see the Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to start posting them there. That's what we'll move into after this 5-minute break, which will start the Q&A portion at 1:30. Yeah, looking forward to answering your questions. All right, we're going to go ahead and move into the Q&A portion now. So with the same link that you've been using, and you can scan the QR code again there, you'll be able to ask questions that you may have come up during the event. Unanswered questions will be collected and answered after the event, but we'll try to get through as many as we can. If you have a similar question to one that's already been asked, please use the thumbs up button to let us know that multiple people are asking that, would like it to answer it. And then we'll take the next 30 minutes or so to kind of answer questions here. We don't plan on going to 11:30, but we can go over a little bit just if we have a lot of questions there. So yeah, go ahead and feel free to ask.
And just to clarify, we mean the thumbs up button on Slido, not the thumbs up button on Zoom. Yeah, we'll see kind of what comes in.
So we've got one question that says, when you say multiple awards, is the intention that one or two companies will receive awards and several other companies should have a teaming arrangement?
I can take this one. So we're not setting the number of awards that we're planning on awarding. We're going to look at all the solutions. There is a chance for multiple awards, and we do strongly suggest that companies come to us in their proposals with suggested teaming arrangements. But the government can also help formulate those teaming arrangements if need be. Hopefully that answers your question.
So like we've got another one, a couple around AFWERX SpaceWorks. So one is, where's the AFWERX SpaceWorks connection? And another one asks, what's the difference between this program, AFWERX and SpaceWorks? A lot of the application process, dual use preferences, et cetera, sound quite similar.
Sure, I'll take that. Okay, so first of all, the majority, if not all, of AFWERX and SpaceWorks funded solicitations come from the SBIR STTR pool. So if you don't know, the Small Business Administration, or SBA, puts out almost $3 billion worth of non-dilutive grant money out to the federal government each year to encourage American small businesses. Well, as we told you earlier, we are not going to limit this competition to American businesses. So we could not use SBIR or STTR funding for this event. We had to use regular procurement dollars and actually jump through quite a few hoops to figure out the ways to be able to engage the global market on this. So as much as we are interested in your solicitations and seeing what the vendors come up, this is also kind of a trial run for us to see how it goes. We really enjoyed working with a lot of non-US companies in International Space Pitch Day. So our country is kind of taking the next step while we figure out what to do and follow on kind of events with other foreign governments. So while the US government is the only one that's sponsoring this, typically SpaceWorks and AFWERX are going to be using SBIR dollars for now, and that may change in the future, but that's kind of how it is right now. Hope that answers your question.
Got another question. Would love to hear your perspective on cybersecurity and HackerOne's ability to protect the attack surface.
Sure. I'm trying to figure out how that can particularly apply to data visualization. Obviously, there are intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems that have a visual component. But I just want to remind you of the scope of what we're looking for. Typically, how are these systems operating? And yes, I agree. Actually, quite a majority of space systems are on the ground, and those are vulnerable to cyber intrusion. So that's part of it, and we're looking forward to hearing what your idea is.
Can a company submit multiple solutions that are at the desired TRL?
I got this. Yes, you can. No limits on number of proposals from a single company.
Another question for you, Nate. Where will the solicitation be released?
There will be a slide at the end of this presentation, but diu.mil, M-I-L, that main page, you can find the link to it.
Yeah, that's a key point. It will not be on sam.gov. So if you're looking for it there, you're going to be looking for a long time. DIU is running this entire contract execution, and they're actually going to be the ones, getting you on contract and doing all that. So they're managing all this for us, and it's just been fantastic working with DIU. So thanks, Nate.
Thanks, Matt. To that note, I recommend following DIU on LinkedIn, shameless plug, but they'll also post there when the AOI is available, and that'll have a direct link to DIU's website. So again, LinkedIn.
Do you do you see a role for novel Earth observation technologies?
That's a broad question. Sure. It's absolutely. I mean, novel space opportunities is what we're trying to do here with innovation. Maybe if you can resubmit something a little bit more specific, I'm happy to answer it.
All right, moving to the next one. Could you provide some specific examples about what constitutes the space domain awareness? As an example, would GCR simulation and modeling fall into that category?
Absolutely. There are broad definitions for space domain awareness quite on purpose. And you recall there was a logical shift from space situational awareness, and that was SSA was the acronym that we were using for the last 10 years-ish plus. And then space domain awareness was a shift more to that kind of battle space feel. It was a shift that we did on purpose, not just for the terminology, but also to create a culture that there is a space domain as there is a air domain and a ground domain and a sea domain, et cetera. And so when we say the generic term battle space awareness, and we use that term in a lot of military doctrine, we wanted to have something akin to just the space domain. So that made it more encompassing. So is space weather in space domain awareness? Sure, absolutely. But is an object flying around that would have been space situational also space domain awareness? So it is a broader term. So specific examples are going to be very, very wide, and terms are going to be very, very wide because we meant it to be that. Give us your best shot. Tell us what you think. And I'm happy to answer a follow-on question based on what I provided. But it is a tough one to answer. And I will tell you that as much as organizational change happens, so does doctrine. So I think we need to rely on a lot of commercial folks out there to help us really define what that is. Show us a good example. I hope you put that into your response.
Are there plans to partner with foreign governments in the future?
Absolutely. This particular competition or solicitation is only the U.S. government, but I assure you that we are working. Will Funk, you see here on video, and he and I are both working with 8 countries, including our own, in defense innovation and understanding what their stance is, what their involvement in space is, and how we can work well together. So absolutely, and our office is working on that.
Another question, are there specific high-value gaps in existing COPs and use cases we seek to fill that aren't as generalized? Looks like it was in response to something you said previously or said previously.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So are there high-value gaps? So just remember, how do we define a capability gap? So those people that I mentioned earlier on my slide, like the Space Warfighting Analysis Center or the 589 crowd, what they're going to do is they're going to start with threat information, which is classified. And they're going to say, do we have something that can meet or beat that threat? If so, how much? And those studies are also classified. And then finally, when we get down to, okay, so what is the capability gap that we have? Whether that's in data visualization or GPS or in anything like that, it becomes then a classification issue of, can we say that there is a technical gap without alluding to the threat-based source that we knew? And I will tell you that tends to be difficult. And so you'll notice that we have a lot of solicitations that are classified. We have a lot of information that we go out, and gosh, doesn't that make it harder for small business or international business to be able to compete on a level playing field? So that's why we're doing kind of these events, to say we are interested in data visualization tools. How that applies to specific capability needs, that's why we reached out on our end to those groups like SWAC and S589 to say, put this in your AOI. So when the area of interest comes out through diu.mil, we hope you kind of take a look at that and really take that as this is our best foot forward saying, these are the needs that we have. It's hard to get specific, and we're doing the best we can.
Too many apps, true, but on the other end, a common COP policy is one app to rule them all. Right balance usually comes down to identifying key use cases.
If you were to replace that question mark at the end with a pyramid, a period, I would say that's more of a statement. So I'm just going to agree with that statement. Yeah, if you have, by the way, one app to rule them all, then it also becomes a large cyber target. So it has to be a blend. And I would say that's the answer to most life questions, right? Is somewhere in the middle. We're going to have to find that for us. So we want you to tell us why you think one solution is better than the other. We want you to put that in our solicitation. I promise you, I will take that very seriously when we review those proposals.
Is the source of funds OTA money? What is the upper limit of potential funding under this competition program?
Yeah, this solicitation will be under an other transaction authority procurement. Once we move out of the prototyping phase beyond phase 3, then that's when we move on to the procurement phase, and or the prototyping, and then possibly into a directly into a procurement contract, and that would be with the we wouldn't have to recompete that either. So that's one of the benefits of the OTA. When it comes to the upper limits, there's 100. Each military service has the authority to execute up to $100 million, but no limits on how many OTAs can be executed.
Is the COP intended to be inclusive of red and gray RSOs as well as blue force objects?
Severin, I wonder if maybe you could answer that question and tell us what, from a space RCO perspective, what you're thinking.
I can just say it can be. So, yes.
All right. Is there a list of potential prime companies that we can consider teaming with, and how will that information be disseminated to all on the call?
No, there's no list of prime companies. There's no specific companies that we are looking for or will give more clout to. This is a completely fair and impartial competition. I'd love to hear Nate confirm that, but tell me what you think, Nate.
Yeah, following phase 1, once we do all our evaluations of solicitations, if we see a couple of companies that seem to gel really well together, or at least their solutions gel really well together, we can help formulate some sort of teaming arrangement that way. But that wouldn't come until after the phase 1 evaluations are complete.
Are we allowed to have conversations with stakeholders from release to submission?
So once the AOI posts tomorrow, all communication needs to be funneled through the DIU website, and there's a link, email link. It's info@diu.mil, I believe. Yeah, info@diu.mil. And then they'll have the instructions on where to post your question. But everything needs to be funneled again through DIU, and it'll come to me, the program manager.
So this is it. This is your chance
That's
to
right.
ask the questions right now.
Again, to protect the integrity of the process, we want to make sure that everything's fair and equitable. So if questions do come to DIU, just note that your question, if it's pertinent to the AOI, that answer will be broadcast to everybody. So we don't want to try and give anyone a leg up on anything.
That said, though, if you have relationships with certain individuals or organizations, we're not saying you can't go talk to them. It's just they probably won't have the answers specific to this particular solicitation. But if you're looking for general information, that wouldn't hurt.
I just want to circle back on the question relating to the dollar threshold, the ceiling for it. I just want to say that our team is treating this kind of similar to a SBIR phase 2. I don't want to say it is or in any way is related to it, because clearly we're using different funding and we're using the OTA. But if that kind of gives you some sort of construct, that's kind of what our team has kind of looked at and done some modeling after.
Is a visualization tool the only pending solicitation area, or are the data sources, analytic tools, O&M, et cetera, also going to be included?
So I saw that question, and I've been thinking about how best to answer it while the things were going on. It's a great question. So first of all, we have a very defined scope, and we have a defined AOI as wide as it may seem. We absolutely are going to be talking about all kinds of data sources, okay, that need to be obviously used. Are we putting R&D funds into making those data sources better? Probably not. right? So we want to kind of work with you on that and what you mean by that. So if a data source is another satellite, obviously we're not going to be, making improvements to that. But if there are improvements that can be made in certain areas, I'll say tangential areas, right, that help data visualization achieve more efficiency or connect some sort of gap that we don't know about, let us know about it. I'd love to hear it. I mean, absolutely. We're gonna read them all. Everything that gets submitted, we are gonna go through. So please be nice to us.
May I add to that too, that the data sources are not going to be provided. The real data sources are not going to be provided for the intent of this solicitation, and the analytic tools. You're going to provide us the visualization, and whatever analysis occurs is not part of the solicitation, and any resulting O&M would be done on a contract that actually resulted in us procuring that solution and putting it into use.
Got another one. To clarify my question to me earlier, in case I misunderstood this response, will a list of attendees versus presenters and contact information be provided?
We're not going to provide our personal contact information because we want you to put all that through DIU. So myself, Will Funk, Severin Blankish, Christoph, we're all going to be evaluators. So we need to be able to protect the unbiased and fairness of the competition. So we want, if you have future communication, you want to do that, we're going to do that through the DIU website. And again, there's a link coming up to be able to field all that. But Nate, I'd like to hear from you on that one too.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. Just again, communicate through DIU's instruction page. Thanks.
Hopefully that's understandable. We can't just be having side conversations with other companies. We need to make it public and fair. And we definitely will post a lot of the questions that we've been asked today, and we want to make sure that all these answers are out there as best to our abilities.
So Nate, I think the question was, are the people who might possibly be interested in bidding on this, will that list of people be posted on the website for possible teaming arrangements? If I understand that question correctly.
Gotcha. So to help maybe facilitate some teaming arrangements. Yeah, we can look into that. Maybe it would have to be on a voluntary basis though. I don't necessarily want to share information if people don't want to share it. So but yeah, we'll look into that.
I would say that's also what LinkedIn is for. So we've done LinkedIn posts with Space Systems Command, DIU, and Space RCO. The actual LinkedIn pages for those three groups have posted about this. So, please use LinkedIn if you want to see who liked that event or who commented on that event, and you want to say that, hey, you're interested. That's another way. Thanks.
Would it be useful or required for a proposed solution to be able to play nicely with AFSIM, Cloud One, Platform One, Iron Bank?
Great question. So Platform One, Cloud One, et cetera, those are big tools that are going to be scaled up to tens of thousands of users, right? I think that that's certainly a possibility. We've certainly reached out to the LCMC at Hanscom before on certain projects, and we'll do again. Remember that Enterprise Core Cross Mission Ground that does Kobayashi Maru and Section 31, those are program offices here at Space Systems Command that talk all the time with Platform One. So we may be able to look into that as well. So if that's part of your solution, put it in there and we'll consider it, and we'll make sure that it gets to the right people. Good question.
Do you anticipate the typical solicitation problems such as a protest and delayed award?
Nate, that's a big one.
Yeah, it is a big one, but no, I do not.
We don't anticipate. We don't plan on protests.
Yes.
When we do solicitations, obviously, a protest is difficult on both ends, right? I mean, it's going to make life difficult for the people doing the solicitation and the people responding to it. So no, we don't. We do plan for the worst and hope for the best, but no, we don't anticipate that.
And then you mentioned that Space RCO is going to be one of the transition partners. Can you describe how that transition will take place from this CSO offering?
Yeah, so the visualization tool will take into, we'll take data that Space RCO assets will provide. And yeah, so those assets aren't even fielded yet. So we have time to figure that out so that we don't exactly have a strict plan for how that's going to take place. But yeah. So no, we don't have that mapped out yet. But we have to have the tool in place before we can make that connection.
In this process, are you interested in tools to share multiple data sets across multiple existing tools?
We've already had those conversations. So yes, we're interested. We can't promise you how to do that because there's just a lot of disparate data sources going on, right? So previously for International Space Pitch Day, we worked really closely with the Unified Data Library. Is that the only data source? No, but we worked well with them and it worked out great. And we got some great data, and connections through the vendors that we're working on. And actually a couple of those vendors ended up going through some operational beta testing exercises as well. So there are going to be opportunities for that. And we'd love to talk to you about it. So really, again, I've said this so many times, help us. So really on the previous question, what's the transition thing going to look like for Space RCO? Tell us the best way to transition your tool. Now, understand, Severin just said it's a pre-development system, so that's a really hard question to answer. But you've got to be able to help us kind of fill in some of those gaps, okay? And then same thing with, hey, tell us, these are the 5 data sources where if I had access to them, it would really showcase my tool really, really well. So great. Then that tells us right off the bat how much work we're going to have to do to make this thing work and what people we need to contact now to make that happen. So really try to help us visualize what that tech transition plan is going to look like and do your best job to kind of educate that or put your best foot forward because that really helps us like, wow, there's a really clear transition for this and we can visualize it. There's a little pun for you, Chris.
Since it's OTA and technically outside of the, I'm going to butcher this, BADL, is there a government purpose license in the IP patents generated? Recipients will own their IP outright?
So I'll take this one. Under OTs, there's a lot more of this negotiable. You have negotiable milestones, IP data rights, terms and conditions, and that can be discussed in later phases once we get to that point. Hopefully that answers it.
Will any information be provided on the capabilities and constraints of the platforms, graphics that will host the visualization tools?
We're going to do the best that we can. So if there are, first of all, we went through a complete audit, I'll tell you that. So for Spaceman, Delta 2 is the space delta that runs space domain operations. And they just ran through a complete audit of all their space data visualization tools. So a lot of that information is already captured. We have that. Whether or not we're going to release it as a part of your solicitation is yet to be determined because we don't know what your response is going to be. Hopefully that answers it, but we've been doing a lot of work to be able to collect that information and have that ready. And by we, I mean the deltas, not me. It's awesome, by the way. It's very helpful.
How are you doing due diligence for non-US companies?
Oh my gosh, who asked that question? I'm so glad whoever asked that question asked it. That's a great question. Okay, so due diligence has become a side hobby of mine to understand how to do this. Folks, it is really cultural to be able to engage non-US companies. We just don't do it all that often. A lot of that has to do with congressional budgetary authority and Title 10 US Code. That's why Nate put that on the slide. Okay. It also has to do with how are we using defense dollars to help foreign economies, is ever that kind of thing. So what we want to do is be very careful with how we do these non-US solicitations and how we work with non-US companies. There is precedent. We have done it in the past. It's just not as widely used as it probably could or should be. So DIU is going to run all the company vetting, all the due diligence. But we are going to start with, is it a good fit? Does the technology meet our needs? Really, the business intelligence is really tertiary. Oh, what country are you coming from? And are there going to be problems? We want to, and have put it in our processes, to value the capability first. We're looking for the best of breed. Show me the best athlete technology out there. We really want to do that first. Is due diligence going to be a part of it? Absolutely. So the Office of Commercial and Economic Analysis is on this call right now. They're going to be helping us out. DIU will be leading, but they can reach out to NCIS and Air Force OSI to understand from a security perspective what's going on, as opposed to like an economic or financial perspective. But we are going to be able to look into these companies and understand, are you going to be a good company and a good fit for us? But we have considered it, really looking forward to it. It's a huge part of what we're doing on these global scale and engaging the international market. And so we needed to make that a permanent part of our process. Once again, fantastic question. Really applaud whoever put that in there. Severn laughs at my joke.
Are you looking for any VR, AR capabilities?
Good question. So right off the bat, I will tell you that the Air Force and Space Force have funded many AR and VR capabilities in the past. So are we looking for them here? Give us your best shot. Tell us what you got. Tell us why you think it would be good. Tell us why you think people would be using it and would benefit from it. What I don't want to see is, here's my view of why people haven't embraced AR or VR. Let's try to move beyond that and say, if you're considering AR or VR, show us what good can come from it and explain how it would be used in the user experience environment. I will tell you, I have not seen anybody lately in a classified space operations center with an AR headset or VR headset. But doesn't mean that it's not possible, and doesn't mean that we're not going to read your presentation.
In this submission, can a company acknowledge that they are willing to team partner with others?
Yes. Yeah. Please mention that in your proposals that you're willing to team.
What are the technical qualifications of the evaluators?
I'll go ahead and take that one.
Yeah, go ahead,
if you don't mind. So I think I don't think we should probably go into the detail of technical qualifications of the evaluators, but I think everyone should know that we are using the process that's defined by the DIU, and that we will be working together as a team of evaluators. So I think that's probably enough information to share.
Can we also add that we've got evaluators who are end users, who are operators. We've got people who are involved in the business side. We've got people who are involved in the contract side. So there's a good mix that we'll be able to look at potential solutions from a wide variety of angles.
That was our direct intention.
Will you assist in finding customer and funding? We had an SBIR phase 2 previously that is very interested, but unable to find funding to continue.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that I just spoke with a company yesterday that was potentially awarded a phase 2, but couldn't find a customer for an MOU. So that happens to everybody. We understand, we like to avoid that. But if you've got an idea that already received some traction, tell us that. Absolutely. Tell us who the people that were the technical POC, the TPOC for that. And we'd love to know that. It gives an air of legitimacy. It also allows us, potentially to reach out to that person and ask them what they think about it. They just didn't have the money at the time, and they love it. Maybe they don't. But that gives us information. So please be transparent and let us know.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in here too. So the first round of funding is secured. So this competition is funded, and should there be a resulting end program here, then the folks who would be responsible for that O&M funding have already been contacted and already are aware that should something result from this, that they would need to start preparing to fund that now. So it's not like we're looking for somebody to sponsor this. The end users are aware that a resulting a piece of software here then would be required to be funded through their annual appropriations.
Are you looking to license software or develop software for visualization?
Both. I mean, look, if it's a licensing and that's part of your business model, just tell us that, right? We are a licensing company and this is part of our, if you want this, it's already been developed and we're at the licensing stage. Just let us know that that's part of the business model of what we're getting into. And then we'll make the decision. But we're going to make the decision most likely based on the best of breed of technology, right? What your particular business model in will be a contributing factor, but it won't be the only contributing factor. So are we looking for that specifically? Not necessarily, but are we open to it? Absolutely.
What pricing cost information is required in the first round?
Absolutely none. I know we breezed through it a little bit, and again, these slides will be available for reference, but on the CSO process page, phase 1 evaluates on 3 parameters, and that's relevance to the problem proposed, technical merit, and whether or not your solution is innovative or unique. Pricing doesn't come in until phase 2.
Regarding the multiple awards question, would that be multiple awards per topic?
It's multiple awards. We're going to see what the best solutions are. Topic-wise, it's just as long as you satisfy the AOI, the problems and objectives mentioned there, then multiple awards be afforded.
What is the dollar value that has been funded for this project already?
We're not going to state that right now.
So this is our last question then. Is natural language processing technology of interest, for example, presenting reports derived from data?
Looking forward to hearing your presentation. Sounds interesting.
So that wraps up the event that we had today. Just want to say thank you all for attending today's event. Hopefully you're all excited for the release tomorrow. Just a reminder, all subsequent questions will be addressed by the DIU PM via their web portal, and then the open solicitations will also be posted to the DIU website. The solicitation will be open from 4 November to 18 November and closes on 23:59 US Pacific time. And then lastly, just want to say a thanks to the AppWorks Vegas team and Mark Rowland in specific for providing the GSIP graphics that we had here. You've kind of seen throughout in our backgrounds and on the slides here. Before we close it off, would any of other team like to say any thanks or anything, or any last parting words?
I want to say a quick thank you. There are transition partners and there are evaluators that are on this call that are listening and participating and answering all of your questions. There are people from all countries around the world. So that is our intention, right? Is to be open, to be transparent, to provide some baseline education, and to really have a much more familial dialogue on what it is we're looking for and how it is or we're looking to work for you. It's also our intention to be very fair and impartial and to try to remove any biases. So you can see I'll tell you right now, we've got over 25 evaluators from about 7 or 8 different kinds of organizations, people working production, people working development, people working engineering, people working ground systems. So we've really tried to do this as open as we can. There's been very few competitions that have involved this many stakeholders, in my experience, from DIU to Space RCO, Space Systems Command, and now with SpaceWorks and AFWorks coming online, they're participating. So I'd just like to say thanks for those people that were here today, and just, Jake, I wore a jacket for you. So there you go.
All right, that concludes today's event. Just want to say again, thanks for taking time out of your day to attend today. Great questions asked by everyone, and we're looking forward to the proposals and looking into those once you start submitting them.
And thank you, Chris. Great music.
And thanks Spotify playlist for that one.
That's right. That's right.